Today I want to talk about the problem with live service games, and I want to talk about the history of them very briefly, and why you don't actually hate live service games. You hate certain games and what live service games have become. And that's what I want to argue here today. Now, for the sake of a definition, a live service game / games as a service is the idea that a game never has to end. On a regular cadence of about 3 months or so, you'll get a big drop of content with small little tidbits of content in between that. It works very well for people who don't have a lot of funds and buy one game and you just play the one game. I remember an argument I made with one of my coworkers a long time ago, Dan. He said, all I play is World of Warcraft and I don't have time for any other games. And my counterpoint was, you'll find other games once you have a better income. And he did. The moment he had more money and could buy new games, he discovered other things he wants to play. I feel that live service games work very well for people like me who have a lot of open-ended time at the end of the night and a lot of friends who want to play different games. So we all buy a live service game and it's the thing we just get on. We don't need to buy new games every 2 weeks. We don't need to buy games every 3 months. We just get on this one game when we use it as an excuse to BS. It's no different than going to the bar or watching the game and chit-chatting. Instead, we're just chit-chatting while we play Destiny or Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Or we play Helldivers. We're just chatting over whatever we're doing. And that, I don't think, is inherently a problem. People have been doing that for like 15, 20 years at this point. When I was in the army, everyone would buy the latest Call of Duty, and we would just play zombies every night, chatting over zombies. And then as the evolution of the internet happened and more DLCs happened for zombies, it became an exciting period. Every 3 months to 6 months, a new zombies map would come out. We'd all download it and we'd all jump on it. It's close to what is currently a live service. They just didn't call it that back then. The concept of a live service actually goes back as early as 1997. Total Annihilation came out with monthly updates for their game, even though many people consider 2016 to 2018 to be the beginning, which is around the era of Fortnite and basically Destiny and things like that. What I'm getting at is between MMOs, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Destiny, and every game that comes out with a cadence of DLC, such as Borderlands, you've actually been playing live service and games of a service for a very long time. I made this argument when Spider-Man 2 dropped, and a lot of people got all up in arms about Spider-Man 2. And they were arguing that they don't want a live service game. And I'm like, you are playing a live service game, you just don't realize it. And they're like, what are you talking about? Spider-Man 2 is a single player narrative game. And you're right, but does Spider-Man 2 not come out with free monthly patches involving New Game Plus, new costumes, to keep you playing the game so that by the time the DLC comes out, you don't forget the game exists and then go buy the DLC? It's the same concept as a live service game, but without calling it a live service game, there's no expectation. And that's part of the problem with the live service game model. Live service games and games as a service model, the big issue comes into an expectation. If you tell me this is a live service game, I now expect the monthly cadence. I now expect the updates. I expect a giant amount of content to be coming out. The problem is, even when that happens, it's never enough content. They pitch you this wonderful idea of a game that's never going to end. You're going to have new maps, new characters, new missions on a daily, nightly basis. But the people that are going to stick with a live service game have a lot more time than the developers have to make the content. We consume it at an increased rate. Final Fantasy XIV comes out with content at a 3-month cadence, and almost always within the first 2 weeks, people complain that they're bored because they've already consumed all of the content. To make that situation worse, live service games and games of a service have gotten a very bad rap for multiple reasons. One, in the usual industry trend, when one of them worked, everybody was making a live service never-ending game, which then became the problem of, if I'm supposed to log onto this game with my buddies every night and play with them while I drink a beer, how do I do that on 5 games? The running meme of video games became a job became legit. During COVID, when we really just reeled back and didn't work really, I fell into a pattern of logging on to my games in the morning with my buddy Dan and my buddy Houston. And we had 5 games that we would rotate between to do all of the dailies. And it was weird too, because they weren't even popular games. Like, we were getting on like For Honor to like fight each other to get the dailies knocked out and then roll over to the next game. So that was the problem one with live service games. And then as you began to hear live service games as a service, people began to assume the worst. They assumed battle passes, microtransactions, skins. They had always assumed the worst. And I have a great example of that in a second too. But that's not always the case. Yes, you're going to have a battle pass. Yes, you're going to have microtransactions. Yes, you're going to have skins. But the whole idea that many of these live service games do is that they don't want to force you to buy it so that they can basically trick you to buy it. Now, here's where the actual problem with live service games began. Because when they first came out, the general idea was, my game never ends. And we never thought anything of it. But then games began to do the worst, which created a bad idea with live service games. One, if the game did not succeed, there was no content. So games like Avengers would come out, and they're like, it's gonna be a live service, never-ending Avengers game. And we're like, okay, if you can fix this because of how broken it is, we'll be on board. And they're like, gotcha. They only came out with 3 significant patches, or 4 significant patches. Well, 3 significant and 1 minor one in the span of 2 years. That does not sustain a live service game. Nobody wants to stay in that game playing it, okay? So that became problem number 1. Games could not turn out the content to warrant being called a live service game. Then we had the infamous situation with Destiny, in which one of the creators of Destiny got on stage at a gaming convention and told them the philosophy of Destiny is not to give them too much. If we give them too much, they're going to expect too much. So give them the bare minimum that we can do so that there is no expectation of more content. Well, this started the idea of, and it's not wrong, how much content has been held back to be made into a live service game? Because that was always an argument with DLC. Was this DLC made at the time of the game and then held back to get more money out of me? Yes, it was. And you didn't realize it, or you did, but we all still paid for it. To which then people would argue, just put it in the game. And then they would say, well, we have to increase the cost of the game. And then people go, no, that's not how it works. And that's an entirely different argument in itself. So those are the first 2 big things. And then, of course, we had the issue with battle passes. A great idea made by Fortnite, something that just gives you a daily thing to log in and do. But then companies came out with terrible battle passes. Every game had to have a battle pass. Why? Why does Conan Exiles, a survival game where I can tweak everything from XP to hunger to make me invincible, have a battle pass? Or games like the Finals come out, which notoriously had a battle pass so difficult to accomplish, you were expected to play the game 80% of the time the battle pass was up on a daily basis or give them money. The problem is we've been playing live service games for a long time. But as we've gone into this current decade, game companies are finding more and more ways to milk live service games and to milk them for what we are. But that's not why we're here, is it? I'm not here to just shit on live service games and become problems. I'm here to tell you why you actually like live service games and you hate some games. So let's go to today. Right now, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League came out. The game's getting really good reviews, but the internet is against it for 2 core reasons. Now, we're not going to discuss the argument against Batman dying in that one. That's not today's argument. The other argument I see is I don't want to play another live service game. I get it. We have Call of Duty. We have Fortnite. We have Destiny. Those are like the biggest ones out there. We have World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14. We have countless other smaller ones at this point that are never ending. We have battle passes out the wazoo. We have app games making millions with the exact same concepts. You don't want another live service game. I hear that. A lot of people said Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League came out 3 years too late. Like if it came out when live service games were a fresh thing, we would be more about it. Even though they were never fresh, the term was fresh. But then Helldivers 2 dropped. Helldivers 2 is a live service game. We have monthly battle passes. The battle pass you have to buy to get better weapons and armor. So we have a pay-to-win route. And we have repetitive missions. And we have repetitive concepts. And it's a game getting monthly updates. It's the same exact thing as Suicide Squad. So I found this interesting because I'm playing Suicide Squad and I'm playing Helldivers 2. And I love both games. I really do. But my brother, he doesn't like live service games. He hates them with a passion. He's the guy that just wants single-player, narrative-driven games. That's what he wants. So we were in the car the other day, and I'm like, hey, just out of curiosity, you are rabid about Helldivers 2. You want to play this game every night. We want to go work on the battle pass. You want to do all of it. But you hate live service games. You don't play Fortnite. You don't play Destiny. You play Call of Duty, but that's mostly because other people invite you to play it, and you do the battle pass. So it's more of a begrudgingly playing it. So why are you all about Helldivers 2? And he goes, well, it's more fun. That was his argument. You see, the argument started with Suicide Squad's repetitive. And I'm like, you're right. So when we go do the 10th egg squashing mission for the night, that's not repetitive? And he's like, okay, but there's more variety in the enemies. I'm like, we're fighting the same bugs over and over and over in Helldivers. He's like, okay, yeah, but I don't feel pressured to buy anything. in Helldivers 2. And I'm like, Suicide Squad has all of its content for free, and the only thing you gotta buy is its battle passes. Is it right? I'm like, so they're both inherently, and when described in a broad spectrum, the same game. That boiled down to the discussion going, why do you like it more? And he said the moment-to-moment gameplay. It's nonstop. It's frenetic. I like that the planet can blow up. I like this kind of stuff. And that is all very valid. But that's when I realized he doesn't dislike live service games. He dislikes some game. He said he loved the narrative in Suicide Squad, but he hated all the other stuff because he didn't enjoy it. It wasn't fun for him, but he loves it in Helldivers 2. And that's kind of what happens on the internet. Everyone gives shit to Suicide Squad, or they want to crap all over the latest live service announcement. But then a game like Helldivers 2 comes out and it has like 100,000 concurrent players in Steam, biggest sales of PS5 for an indie game and for a long time. Then during this discussion I had with him, I found another interesting aspect. One of my all-time favorite games is Subnautica, which is a survival horror game, underwater, $30 purchase, no extra DLCs or whatever like that. But what they did do is come out with monthly updates where they added things to the game. Kind of live service, but you could argue against it because they never charged you for anything. There was never any microtransactions. There was never a battle pass. But you know what their publisher considered that? Games as a service. Because it's a game that continues past its launch. So they made a statement stating that they were going to make a multiplayer co-op sequel to Subnautica, and it was going to be games as a service. The entire Reddit thread freaked out. Everyone was like, oh my God, Subnautica 2 is going to be a multiplayer co-op game with battle passes and skins and microtransactions. It's going to be milking us for money. It's going to be the worst thing ever. They said games as a service. And the team behind Subnautica came out and they were like, everyone chill the out. We're just going to do the same thing as Subnautica 1. It's going to be a game that's meant for single player. It's going to have some co-op options, and we're going to monthly come out with updates. The exact same thing as Subnautica 1. And the internet went, oh, okay. So it's a games as a service, but not a games as a service. The problem is we're taking live service and games as a service and we're using it too freely. There's no clear definition as to what applies to it. Helldivers 2 is okay because you enjoy it, but Suicide Squad is not because it's a live service. This is the argument that I'm making here. You don't dislike live service or games as a service. You dislike certain games and what the industry has done to the concept. And that leads us to the end of this discussion. I thought it was an interesting almost psychology to it when I started talking to my brother and this discussion came out. Because a lot of people just kind of latch onto live service games as a service are bad. My brother's a great example of that. I have other people that I talk to that if it's certain things are announced in a game, it's bad. And the internet will just dogpile on whatever they don't like, which right now is live service and games as a service. Even though we've been doing it since 1997's Total Annihilation, and we've been playing MMOs this entire time, and we've done all kinds of wonderful things, it's bad because now it's being called that. So that's pretty much it. I don't think at this point we can talk much further without going in circles and talking about it, but that's what I'm saying. I'm curious what you think down below. Do you just dislike the whole idea of live service games? And if you do, what games are you playing right now? Are you secretly playing a live service game that is just not calling itself that? Are you playing Call of Duty because it's fun and that makes it okay? Are you playing Helldivers 2 because it's fun and that makes it okay? Let me know down below. Anyway, I'm Benny. Like and subscribe, and we'll be back next week when I get an AI girlfriend. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.